Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone. This is an opportunity for us to find out about an exciting new initiative in Wales called Taith. Taith's a Welsh word and it means journey. So this is the start of a journey. I'm Liz Millman. I'm from the North Wales Jamaica Society, but I've also got a lot of links in Jamaica and I'm part of the Jamaica Wales Alliance. So welcome, Barrington. It's good to have you with us. As Director of Region 7, the area of Jamaica that we're thinking is going to make a link with North Wales. And welcome also to you, Manley. That's great to have you here on the session. And your background in literacy is very special. And welcome, Bathsheba, as well. I'm not sure what your specialism is or what your role is. You want to share with us?
Sure. I am the educational psychologist. I work in the special education unit.
Right, that's fantastic, because one of the things that the Taith project emphasizes is the importance of engaging staff and students from all the sectors in education, including the special education sector. So that's really good. Okay, well, I'm going to start with sharing the screen, and what we're going to ask for first of all, not sure what's happening with my screen, put that there. Start first of all with a prayer. So Barrington, are you okay with that?
Sure, Liz. Let us pray. Lord, we thank you for this great day that you have given to us. We thank you for the opportunity to be meeting like this in this kind of partnership and this kind of fellowship. We ask that you continue to bless us individually, bless us collectively. And as we seek to discuss matters related to education in Jamaica and in the UK, we thank you that, Lord, the outcomes of this meeting will be of such that we'll see the synergy and the partnership growing and developing for the benefit of education and the benefit of our children across territories. Bless us together, we pray. And we commit all things to you this morning. In Christ's name, amen.
Well, thank you so much. So I was delighted to find on your Facebook page, I think it was, this lovely illustration of the Versailles Hotel. As I say, I have spent quite a lot of time in Jamaica, traveling back and forth between the UK, taking every opportunity to promote educational links of various sorts. So it was great to see that illustration. And I found the illustration of Gwynedd Council buildings where they have their education team housed, and that's in a very wonderful old city called Carnarvon, which has a very large castle built by the King of England to suppress the Welsh. So there are some common themes between Wales and Jamaica, which we maybe be able to help our children to have some understanding of. So Taith is the name of the project, and that interesting red squirrel is the dragon's tail. You'll see that in a moment coming up. So let's work out how to move my PowerPoint presentations on. Being a bit stubborn. Right, let me just move this panel again. Put it onto full screen. Can you see that okay?
Yes.
That's easier. Right, then I'll move that up there and then we'll go this way. Right. Okay, I'm in Australia at the moment, and the respectful thing to do here is to acknowledge the traditional owners on the land on which I'm currently living. This is the Wurundjeri of the Kulin Nation. So respect to their elders, past, present and future. This land belongs to the sovereign people of the First Nations of Australia. It was never ceded. It always was, and it always will be Aboriginal land. And on this slide, I chose to use this fascinating map. Every single coloured area is a different community, even language speaking communities of the Indigenous people of Australia. Okay, so now we're just having a look at this next part, which is our introduction to Taith. So it's www.taith.wales. It's very informative, but I have to say it's quite difficult to get your head around. Wales reaching out to the world. Well, Jamaica to the world too. So this session, we're going to, we've done our introductions, we're going to explore, find out more about the Jamaica-Wales Alliance, the introduction to Wales, the shared history links between Wales and Jamaica, and then an introduction to Taith. So we'll whiz along at quite a reasonable pace so that we get through this quite quickly. All right, the next thing that we're going to look at is workshop opportunities for enhancement-led international learning exchange activities and practices. I've done quite a lot of cutting and pasting. So we're developing new curriculum resources to develop tangible project outputs which address a specific issue or sector priority. And the themes for the Pathway to funding call, which is the first call that we can apply for, and that's for December the 1st, which is, you know, pushing it a bit, but at this level of engagement, I think that's really good. So we could look at developments in education, diversity and inclusion, or climate change. They're the themes, so it has to be relevant to one of those, but as they're so vague and wide, then we can come up with something. And then I thought we might talk a little bit about how to present feedback to Welsh colleagues and take maybe a few minutes over that. Now on the 15th of November, and I'm not even going to attempt to tell you what time it is, but it might be possible for you to join one of the training sessions, but I'm not sure. Oops, sorry, what have I done? Share the screen again. All right, here we are. Right, so some questions here. If we've got a bigger group, we might do it as a workshop, but just can I ask each of you, what makes Jamaica Jamaica? What's special about Jamaica? What do we tell Welsh people?
Go ahead, Shaw.
Oh, thanks for volunteering me.
Sure, are you Shaw Bathsheba or Bathsheba Shaw?
Yes.
Sure, I call you.
Well, if someone should ask me, I would say that we're a very diverse country in terms of, you know, our cultural practices. I think we're very vibrant people. Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that attracts the world to us, because people like a sense of vibrancy. So I think that's very special about us. We're a strong set of people, and we are impactful wherever we go.
Well, out of many, one people, I think that's the motto, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, impactful, that's good, yes, for the whole human race. Okay, right, so what do you think makes Wales Wales? I don't know whether I need to help you a bit here, but as you can see, this large dragon on the flag, they're a very proud people, and that's the Welsh flag. They have their own history, like all countries do. They have their own history of an incoming people taking them over. That was the English. And if you think about education, then Welsh schools, Welsh children were made to speak in English, even though it wasn't their first language, and probably didn't speak it at all. So at some stage we can work out what the two countries perhaps have in common. Right, just so that you know what we're talking about, and this will be important perhaps for others who are not so sure. Wales is this green bit on the west of England. And if you look at this map, it shows you specifically the area of Wales that we're particularly looking at. It's the area around here, Snowdonia and the coast. So it's a little like Clarendon because it's got coast and it's got mountains. So this is a bigger map. So can you see 3 places in North Wales with links with Jamaica? Can you spot any? I'll give you a clue. This is Penrhyn Castle. This is by Bangor. So this is Gwynedd, this whole area.
I see Denby.
Yeah, Denby, yeah, Denby. And we've got to make special consideration. That's actually outside Gwynedd in Denbighshire. But they have a Denby show just the same as you have a Denby show.
Oh, nice.
We're going to have to include Denby High School. We can't exclude it.
Yeah.
And there's another very important place up here, Liverpool, which was a main centre of the slave trade. Liverpool at the north of Wales and Bristol at the south of Wales. So Wales was a big catchment for providing the goods that were traded and required around the world. So yeah, 3 places, and I'm sure there are other names. There's names in Jamaica as well that have Welsh origins. Right, just to say the North Wales Jamaica Society, just so that you know who we are. I spoke to Natalie just recently, our chair, this evening, and she would have joined us, but she's not well today. So that's Georgia Amakan. We very open with our membership. We have people from all over the world now who are members of the North Wales Jamaica Society. We used to be much more local before Zoom was invented. We used to meet in person, of course. Those were the days. All right, so we'd like to invite you to our monthly open meeting on Zoom. It's the first Saturday of the month at 9 o'clock Jamaican time, so that's not too awful. So Croeso, welcome. Croeso. It's a free event, everybody's welcome. And we get a real mix of people. We even had a really distinguished gentleman called Barrington Richardson joined us at the last one. Manly.
I just wanted to, as you spoke about connections and links between Jamaica and Wales, and you mentioned the issue of language, the Welsh children who did not necessarily speak English from birth. That's not the language they came to school with, but they were made to speak English. There is a particular interest and connection there because of our language situation in Jamaica as well, with English being the official language, but the mother tongue being Jamaican Creole. So I thought that was an interesting area that we could explore as we look at similarities between the two.
Yeah. I think the language thing could be very important because in Wales, they've got a very long history now of teaching bilingually. And I think there'd be a lot of interest. And I've tried hard to make connections between the Jamaica Language Unit and the University of Bangor, but they've never just stuck. But I think at a practical practitioner level, I think it might be a whole different story. So thank you very much indeed for that. That's great. So what do our two countries have in common and what makes us different? Well, we'll think about that as we go through. And how can we, how can Taith help us get to know one another and learn about our world? I put by providing funding to help. So that's certainly one way. Just a bit of background then, the Pennants project we've been working on for some time now. Gifford Pennant originally sailed as part of Cromwell's invasion fleet in 1655. I'm not going to go on and on about history, but it's just to give the background. He never returned to Wales, but he took a lead to develop plantations, mainly in Clarendon, with one in Westmoreland. And so there you can see your Denby plantation as it was back in the day. And in the middle, you can see Richard Douglas Pennant, the small guy, and Yasser Safari, the Jamaican poet who has regularly visited Wales and been a great support to us working in schools and communities all across Wales. Has been fabulous. So just to remind you, your Denby plantation, when we visited, we found some evidence of the old buildings. We've been to Clarendon, to Edwin Allen High School. That was with Yassus and the Welsh poet Cole Rees. We had meetings with the Mayor of Maypen and Rowan Blake, and also MP Pernell Charles. And I was very honoured to have met Councillor Milton Brown, because he first challenged the Pennant family, and it's his challenge that we're still working on now, and they have now set up a foundation, and we're working on how to support the school in Pennants. So they, the third generation of the Pennant family left their great house in the care of agents and returned to Wales, taking the wealth generated from their plantations with them. And then the next three generations used this wealth to invest in North Wales. Now, people in North Wales know all about this story, whereas people in North Clarendon perhaps aren't interested in the story. I don't know, but in 1940, the strike led by tenants in Pennants meant that the Pennant family were forced to sell their Jamaican plantations, and we're looking at that history now, the history with Robert Rumble and the strike. So in 1951, the castle and 40,000 acres of land were accepted by the British Treasury in lieu of death duties, and the ownership was transferred to the National Trust. It's quite common with our big properties. So there it is, a massive castle, and it's a beautiful, beautiful green area. They get lots of rain, a bit like Jamaica, but in the background, this is Snowdonia, and these are where the slate quarries are, so that not only exported slate around the empire for roofing, but also for schooling. So there's quite an interesting history there. It's a huge castle. It's a folly. It was never lived in. It was just built to show off. And it's kind of hard to see how incredible it is, and the workmanship of the Welsh stonemasons who built the castle. No expense was spared, and Queen Victoria was even a guest. So you can see, pretty lavish inside. That's the entrance hall. And it's because of the history of the castle that Welsh people in North Wales know we've got a connection with Jamaica, but don't know how to deal with it. And so we've looked at different ways to help people. The local people are also angry with the family because they treated their own workers very badly. So that's another story. But the Welsh schools know these stories, and it's part of their history. So when the High Commissioner and his wife, Dr. Lola Ramankan, came to Wales, they met with various people in South Wales. But as you can see, Welsh as a language, it has to be represented equally with English. And the normal practice in North Wales is that the Welsh is put first, and then the English is put underneath. So that was a good opportunity. And there's another organisation in South Wales called the South Wales Jamaica Society. So we work quite closely together, but they don't do so much international work because they've got more of a community of their own to look after. So that was an exciting time, and there's a real mixed community in South Wales from many different Caribbean islands and other parts of the world. It's fabulous. The archives of the Pennant family are held at Bangor University, and this is when the High Commissioner came. So there's all this incredible resource of maps and documents, because when the agents were managing the plantations on behalf of the family, they had to communicate all the time, and the Pennant family kept all these records and then passed them on to the archives. So the High Commissioner thanked them for doing that. Sorry. So it is a really remarkable collection. And one of the things that would be good in this project, if we can involve university students from or lecturers from Jamaica to actually spend time in the archives in Wales, so that, you know, this is the history of your country. It's fascinating to look at the maps. They're really, really interesting. That's one we've studied at length with the map of Pennants with the River Mino. And the river comes down this way, and there's a little ford here, and the sugar works are there. All right, so here on a painting that they have in Penrhyn Castle, here's the sugar works, here's the River Mino coming along, and here's the overseer coming across that ford. So we're sharing these things with our colleagues in Pennants, and we meet every Thursday with the Pennants Community Development Committee, and they've got a little history group going, and we don't just talk about how to get the money out of the Pennant family, we also talk about the ways of the way we can research the history and share the history. It's really interesting, these two paintings, the one of Pennants and the one of Denby, because they're so idealized. They're no resemblance to reality, I'm sure, of the awful times that there were. But the Denby show in Wales, glorious event, and the High Commissioner and his wife dressed up so beautifully, and we all went in our Jamaican colours. And it's just like your Denby show, if I can say, because I've been to your Denby show, except most of the people in Wales are white and most of the people in Jamaica are black. But that's really the only difference. It's all about sheep, well, about cows and horses and things. So it's a lovely, lovely event. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. But going back to those archives, there are also some really important documents that really ought to be made accessible to researchers in Jamaica. And this is a particularly poignant document that lists so many names. Right, so I'm just going to stop sharing for a minute to say that's what I've been looking at there. So I hope that's given you a bit of an introduction, and other people who are watching this will be able to feel that they've understood that as well. So now we'll just look at the Taith things. Right, we're this is all cut and pasted from their website. So it's a new program, and it's a very unusual program because it's actually Wales's response to coming out of Brexit, because a lot of the educational links with Europe have now been severed, although they're no longer funded. So this is a new program specifically for Wales. It's not partly in England and partly in Wales. It's entirely in Wales, enabling people from Wales to study, train, volunteer and work all over the world, while allowing organisations in Wales to invite international partners and learners to do the same here in Wales. So you are international partners and learners. So you are entitled to be invited, it has to be that way around, to study, to train, to volunteer and to work. So this is really an interesting concept, and it's a huge concept, and it's very well funded. It'll increase opportunities to broaden horizons, experience new ways of life, and bring back lessons to share with people at home. So the programme will run until 2026, supported by a £65 million investment from the Welsh Government. So it really is innovative and interesting, with opportunities for all. Schools, youth organisations, further education, vocational education and training, adult education and universities. And there's a special section on the website that also talks about learners with special educational needs, also being included, and I think that would be wonderful. So Wales is inviting the world to Wales. This is one of the purposes of Taith. Hosting people in Wales will be a fundamental principle of the programme, with funding available to welcome learners, volunteers and staff from partner organisations around the world. So we're having to think about how this could work, because it's not a model that I've worked on before. I've worked on higher education links from the British Council, and that was just higher education links, what it sounds like. And connecting classrooms was all from the British Council, was always about just individual teachers exchanging from different schools. So as our visitors, that's visitors to Wales, you will enrich our education and youth sectors with new approaches and ideas, bringing even greater diversity and culture to our communities, classrooms and campuses. And that's really important. Wales sadly has a reputation for, or there's been a recognition that racism is really quite a big issue in schools in Wales, and there have been 1 or 2 serious incidents recently. So it's important that that's recognised as well, and to have the opportunity to link with Jamaica is a fantastic opportunity. So these two-way flows will allow the Welsh to grow partnerships built up, grow the partnerships built up under Erasmus, and help to develop new ones while we're in the new ones category. So the idea is with the partnerships to develop tangible project outputs which address a specific issue or sector priority. The projects must align with identified themes and support Welsh priorities and policies in the education and youth sectors. So we may have to adjust to take a lead from our Welsh colleagues, but I'm sure what they'll be wanting will be sensible, because the themes for the pathway are developments in education, so that's pretty broad, diversity and inclusion, and climate change. So I wasn't sure how many folks are going to be here, but this is something that we can look at again, is you know, what might be ideas for the projects, but I think that's probably more relevant when we've got more folks. Right, just whiz past that. So participation in the project's international collaboration, learning opportunities, this is all a bit repetitive, but I think it's about getting our heads around it in the way that Taith is presented, and also look at the long-term benefits of participating organisations. So these projects will therefore play a part in contributing to further aims of the Taith programme and make a positive impact on policy developments in different sectors across Wales and beyond. So how can this international collaboration be managed? Will it be school to school, class to class, school consortium to school consortium? I don't know. This is what I've put as my suggestions. So I'm just going to pause for a minute in case there's anything you want to ask me or comment on.
Sorry, Liz, I want to ask you, Liz and RD, just pardon me for about 2 minutes. I need to just pop out of this meeting to open a meeting room for another meeting, then I will return.
No problem.
Okay, sure, Monday. Liz, the areas that were highlighted as the main focus areas, development in education, diversity and inclusion, climate change. Do you have any sample of previous periods that persons would have focused on? And if yes, is there any guidance in that area that you could share with us?
I can't share that with you, but it's the next thing that we need to be looking at.
Right.
And it's really, it's as if we're doing things kind of not quite the right way around.
Yes.
That it should be our Welsh colleagues welcoming you and telling you all about it. instead
Right.
of us telling them all about it. And they're obviously busy reading us all about it at the moment. But
Right.
I don't know how we will put projects together, but on the Taith website, let me just get that up for us to have a look at. And that's the Welsh folk. Here we are, right. Get back up to the beginning and just share that with you so you can see. So this is the Taith website, and I think if we go into funding, it seems to take. So we have to, so you have to think about the sector. Now, at the moment, it appears that we're thinking about primary and secondary. And I think
Right.
that's
Yes.
quite
Yes.
complicated enough to do, because
Mhm.
in future there can be other aspects, obviously. So if we go into schools, pathway 1 was about traveling and introducing one another, and that was earlier this year, but this is the one that we're into, strategic partnerships and collaboration. And I think if there's a strategic partnership between Region 7 and Gwynedd is a county in Wales, and it's about the same size as Clarendon. So it's a kind of a reasonable mix. And it's also, I'm just trying to count up the number of towns in it. I think there's about 4 reasonably big towns, and the rest is mainly quite rural. So there are a lot of similarities. And in the same way as Milton Manley was saying about traveling all around to go to the different schools, you know, that's one of the things that has to happen in Gwynedd. So funding for schools. So here we are, the funding calls again. But it sort of talks more about the practicalities. But we certainly have got support from Taith. You see, it says here the school's call is £400,000. Well, if they'd got enough people applying that, you know, that would use up all that funding, they probably wouldn't be so enthusiastic about encouraging us, but they certainly want to get on with it. So the funding application deadline is the 1st of December. That's the worrying bit. And then the grant calculation tool and eligibility checklist deadline. So we've really got to get our Welsh colleagues to get their heads around this, because it's not up to you to be having to worry about that. Then we'll get the outcome by the end of February, and projects can commence in May. So that's quite a sort of comfortable timeline. But by next year, early next year, we'll be applying for the other level as well. So it would be good to get people clued into this. And then useful information is that you have to look down this page and get to
Okay.
events, and the webinars and the events you have to click, and then you can't apply to join the event without going through the website.
Mm-hmm.
So so there have been various things that went on before I even knew about it, but this is the 15th of November at 12 o'clock in the UK, which is 7 a.m. I'm sorry, folks, for you, but
Mm-hmm.
try and see if we can. I'll certainly make the effort to get there. So there's lots of other. There's so much on the site, but it's kind of doesn't say this is how you put together a project. Well, I haven't found that bit yet.
Okay.
So stories. Oh, I've never clicked on stories before. Is Mandy back yet?
Perhaps it's just a standard project proposal.
Mhm.
I don't know. I know that sometimes with funders, there are different things that they will take into consideration when writing up a proposal.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it is that the thinking is just a standard proposal and not necessarily anything specific. We would just have to try to
Yeah.
coin what we are proposing in a way that appeals to the pathways that have been identified to make it seem like it is in alignment with those values.
Right, right. Is there a application form? Probably it will give us some specifics. I think I saw one earlier, Liz.
Was it at the top? Sorry. So this is
Right.
the main
Go
thing
back to
about
funding, go back to funding and scroll down. I think I saw go on pathway to our schools, go on schools.
Oh, in that long list there could have been, yeah.
Yes.
Apply for funding. Pathway to open, select.
Right.
Then that was the overview and the funding timeline. The core program guide, discover more about how the program works, who's eligible. This seems eligible activities, pathway to program guide. Should we have a quick look at that?
Sure, sure.
I think the next one down, the qualitative questions, is quite interesting as well. But you can just look this up yourself. So. I think we need a little working group just working on, getting the ideas together when we've just become a little bit more aware of it. I think this is going over the same things we've talked about, who can apply. Pathway information.
Okay, I think here we could get some information here. Projects under this.
Sorry. Got some on bilingualism, multilingualism and Welsh culture. Identity and belonging, that's very important for all of us. And inequality, access and social inclusion. It could be that go with the diversity and inclusion theme, or in a way, I don't know, climate change would be.
I was hoping that the diversity and inclusion would speak somewhat to special education.
But it can though.
It can.
Yeah, I think that last bullet there, inequality, access, and social inclusion.
Yeah,
we can fit our special education needs squarely under that bullet.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Windsor is it Windsor that's your main school in Region 5?
Region 7, yes.
Region 7, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we also have a focus on inclusion within regular primary schools.
Yeah.
Where we have pull-out programs, special education units within the regular primary school. So that could be a model that we could amplify and share with Wales as to how we are doing it, and also look at the emphasis on literacy, even within that context. So we could twin both wisdom and Bathsheba, just to make it an enriching package.
Good
That
morning.
would be something.
Yeah, that's
I'm not in the meeting. I'm not
Project
in
that.
another one. Oh, sorry about that. Lisa, I wanted to ask, in the Welsh context, how do they handle special needs? Are they mainstreaming special needs children in the main, or are they dealing with them in separate facilities?
I could say I don't really know the answer, but in a way I do, because right across the UK it is the norm to include, if possible, but there are also specialist schools where some children are educated, but partly because of the difficulties of access in a very rural area, then more children are probably integrated and supported in mainstream schools. That would be my answer, but that's a question to ask the Welsh colleagues.
Okay. All right. Could you just scroll back up to the education section, the section just before diversity and inclusion? Okay, developments in education. Curriculum for Wales, National Youth Work Strategy for Wales. Commission for Tertiary Education and Research. Oh, all right. That developments in education section is much more limited than I would have expected.
Well, it's more limited than I would have expected, but I think there's some things in getting this whole project started that it's so Wales focused, which is obviously what they're used to, and it's not really in some ways like here, it's not opening it out to look at what's going on in other countries. So I'm sure there will be some adjustments and things will be made more inclusive for our visitors, as well as just talking about, you know, our curriculum for Wales, because obviously you will be interested in what the curriculum for Wales is, but you know, it's
Certainly.
not something that you want to implement in Jamaica.
It seems to me that second focus area, Bathsheba, is where we would find ourselves situated, mostly diversity and inclusion. Now, in terms of literacy, the literacy landscape, because of that issue I mentioned before, the bilingualism, multilingualism, and Welsh culture, I think we could try to address some of our literacy issues there. We could situate some of our literacy issues there because of the duality of our language context.
Yeah.
And how that impacts the children's literacy learning.
I think this is a very rich area. I think this could really be a great value to both sides.
Indeed, and especially because now the country does not have a formalized language policy. It's been in draft for quite a number of years, and there is no work to complete that draft policy. So it is something that is current and topical here,
Right.
in terms of our language education policy. And so I think we could get some good discussions going around that. And because we have this, we could explore some more the Welsh situation and how they have dealt with it. And see what kind of lessons can be learned.
Yeah, there's a great deal to be learned. And one of the reasons that I was really interested to spend more time in Wales was to explore what they were doing, because in my lifetime, Welsh has been rehabilitated as the second language of the country, which wasn't the case before. So now you get your gas bill and your electric bill and your everything else comes bilingually, and it has to, and they've really put so much effort in. I've not come across the same level being put in Scotland. It's not the same, but in Wales they really have made a terrific effort, and they've learned so much in the process. And I thought that it would be helpful in the work that I was doing with colleagues in Jamaica to be able to reflect on the Welsh situation. So you absolutely hit it on the head. That's great. That'd be really good. Right, I'm not sure what else.
I like here, 3B, go back up, Liz.
Yeah,
Here.
3B.
Yes, right here. I see where they're giving ideas as to how we could formulate our proposal in terms of format and the latitude we have to innovate and bring fresh ideas from a cultural perspective.
So it's interesting that your culture agents is a brilliant concept, as well as your there's another category of teacher you have, I just can't bring it to mind. Guidance counselors.
Okay.
Brilliant concept that, and that doesn't exist in any British schools and isn't understood when people are guidance counselors. I remember the first time I came across somebody who'd come to Britain and she'd worked in a school as a guidance counsellor, and there just wasn't an equivalent. So I think it's really good for people to have the opportunity to reflect on good practice in other countries and see what could come out of it. So that's I mean, I'm sure they'll be very open-minded, because this is such a new, innovative project. They've never done anything like it before. So we could, in the terms of the dissemination, I mean, I thought we could do, you know, a number of online conferences and workshops, as well as, you know, sharing of resources and the training sessions. There's lots of things that we could develop, and that just shows how practical. And now we're all a lot better with using Zoom. We're not perfect, but we're a lot better. You know, you can meet, and you know, when you haven't got somebody in Australia on the team, then it's easier time wise, because there's lots of opportunities. Because in looking at my Jamaican, I've got a chart on the wall, so I'm looking at different times. So the Jamaica school time that matches across is yeah, it's the afternoon in England and the morning in Jamaica. So from lunchtime in England, that's your breakfast time. And so you've got like half a day common time, 3 or 4 hours common time. So that makes a big difference. It's difficult if you haven't got common time. Right. And how to apply. Yeah. Read all the things. Well, my pledge for this as a next step is that I will read all of this. I'm afraid I didn't get round to it the weekend. We were having too good a time here, party weekend. And we can work out all the practicalities around all of that then. Okay, so I'm just going to stop sharing that for a minute and just go back to to wherever we're on here. Well, I think we'd more or less gone through everything, and the last thing that I'd thought of was to whether it's possible to present feedback to Welsh colleagues. I haven't heard back from them as to what they want to do, but they have said they're very enthusiastic and they know the deadline's the 1st of December. So your preference, do you think, would be the diversity and inclusion and all the elements there? So if we
Yes,
find out
yes.
what format that has to be done and see if that's something that has a resonance in Wales, which I'm sure it probably will.
Mhm. I
Um,
think we need to do the research as to what special education, what it looks like, if it's a priority in their education system. So
It
we can
certainly will be,
juxtapose
yeah.
against that. But I think for us on this side, that is a priority for our ministry. And it's something that even in this COVID era where we're trying to recover, it would be a good era to show and to demonstrate how we would have been, resilient in bouncing back with that kind of emphasis, twinning the literacy and special education. But Liz, that will bring me to another point, because in the last meeting, I think we agreed on a few high schools and possibly one primary school. If we are going to do the diversity and inclusion, we might want to do a better mix of primary and high so that we to include one of our special education institutions.
Yeah, of course.
To kind of give that balanced perspective as to what it looks like. So we might have to go back and do a new list.
I think it's interesting because I think with the British Council model, which is stuck in my head, that was very much about school to school. This is very different. And I think in being educational authority to educational authority, that's what we'd call it in Wales, to your education authority, the Gwynedd Clarendon link, then within that, I think we can do a whole lot, and we may not have to list schools that are involved. It may be, what I'll do, Eleanor, who's the person I've spoken to, she's very happy to answer any questions, and she was sorry she couldn't join today. So I'll speak to her and I'll set up a time when we can speak to her, that you can speak to her and ask her questions. But we just need to get the Welsh people on board, and then at least if we've got an idea that diversity and inclusion would be probably your preference, and then we can engage the schools across the schools range. That would be great.
Yes. Maybe what we could do in between time, whilst we wait for that meeting date, is to just do a quick outline from our end, just sharing ideas under this theme, and we could present that at that meeting for further discussion.
Thank you. And if any of you have got time to go through the Taith website, there's an awful lot on it, but I found it difficult to find what I wanted to find, which they're good at saying the sort of organizational bit, but it's the actual bit about what people might do that seems hidden away somewhere. It's not there. They're leaving it to your imagination and come up with your innovative ideas. I'm not sure. Anyway, so is that okay? Shall I stop the recording there? I think that's been a really, really helpful meeting.
Wisdom, Bathsheba, anything else you want to raise that might be germane to the way going forward?
No, I'm in agreement with all that has been said. Just looking forward to putting ideas together and follow-up discussions.
Okay.
Certainly, same here. I will try to find some time to scan through that Taith website.
Okay,
Right.
great.
Okay, so that should have stopped the recording. It doesn't seem to have done.